I lost Ethan. I lost him in the summer of our 7th year. Even when I coughed up blood, he didn't react with the worry he once had. Standing outside the clinic, I sent him a message. Ethan, my throat's acting up. Can you take me to the hospital? His reply was immediate. Your pharyngitis cleared up months ago. Lena, stop pretending. A metallic taste flooded my mouth. I typed back, hands shaking slightly. I just want to check up. His next message carried a dry chuckle. Fine. Wanna wait? Then wait. So I waited, perched on a plastic chair outside the clinic, patient as always. I waited for a very long time, long enough for the crimson stain to spread across my palm. Ethan never showed. I never imagined I would die so quietly, slumped in a faded chair on the south side of town. Before my eyes closed, all I felt was exhaustion, so deep it pressed down on me. I told myself I just needed a short rest, a brief pause, and then I would see him. I pictured him standing there, scolding me for skipping my medication, for wandering into this place alone. As my vision blurred, I rehearsed excuses. Because you've always taken me to appointments. Because my insurance card is still in your drawer. Because you remember the details of my childhood tonsillectomy better than I do. It was all practical reasons. Nothing to do with missing him, not at all. When I opened my eyes again, the world had shifted. I saw my body slumped, head against the wall, eyelashes resting lightly on my cheeks, as though in peaceful sleep. A sudden vibration. My phone slid from my lap. I reached for it instinctively, only to pass my hand through thin air. I stared at my ghostly fingers. The truth settled slowly. I was dead. I had died quietly outside a busy clinic, waiting for Ethan to come. The screen lit up with his messages. Still there? Guess you're not sick after all. Lena, you lied again. I hadn't lied. My throat really did hurt. Chronic pharyngitis had lingered since childhood. My tonsils were removed at 16, but a persistent lump had appeared over the last 6 months, occasionally causing streaks of blood. Before, Ethan would have panicked, whisking me to the hospital without hesitation. But not now. He saw me as manipulative, deceitful, someone who twisted facts to her advantage. Because I'd always been frail, Ethan had assumed a caretaker role when he turned 20, meticulous, strict, relentlessly attentive. He measured my water temperature, dosed my medication personally, and rushed to my side at the slightest cough. I had loved the care, clinging to him, insisting I'd never date anyone. And you can't either, Ethan. Stay with me forever. He'd chuckle and flick my forehead. Don't be ridiculous, he'd say softly. Seeing me pout, he'd relent. Fine, fine. I'll wait until you find someone. Happy now. I wished time would freeze forever, yet hoped for change. Change did come, but not how I imagined. I should have looked at him longer. I never saw him one last time. People passed without a glance. A girl sleeping outside a clinic is nothing unusual. Then a tiny hand picked up my phone. The little girl who had sat beside me earlier. We had exchanged nicknames. She called me Pretty Lady. I called her Sweetie. She studied the glowing screen, brow furrowed in concentration. Too young to read much, she finally placed the phone back in my hand. Pretty Lady, she whispered. You dropped your phone. Hold it tight. When I didn't answer, she scurried back to her mother. Minutes later, the phone buzzed again. Ethan, I'm at City General. If you want to come, take a cab. But didn't you tell me to wait? Why did you leave? Before I could think further, I soared through the air. In an instant, I was at City General Hospital. I saw him. Ethan stood at the corridor's end, back straight, crisp white coat, speaking calmly on the phone. Tall, lean, composed, untouchable. I drifted closer, planning a small scare, when I overheard. The doctor is checking on Mindy. Shouldn't be serious. Mindy? Here? The examination room opened. Ethan ended his call and approached. Everything okay? I'm fine, Mindy said, clinging to his sleeve. But I still feel awful. Stay with me. She was faking. I surged forward, but my hands passed through her. Ethan smiled faintly, warm and tender. Of course. Tall, refined, golden-rimmed glasses, eyes that could seem distant or radiant. When he smiled, the world warmed. He hadn't smiled at me in ages. Lena will be here soon for her throat checkup, he added, calm slipping slightly. Mindy's expression flickered, masking irritation. You're so kind, Ethan. Even after everything, you still care for Lena, though she deceived you. A shadow passed over Ethan's face. This is the last time, he said firmly. If she tries this again, I won't see her. I hovered, ghostly, the summer wind gusting through. My throat still ached. It really is the last time, I whispered. I won't trouble you anymore. Mindy took his arm to leave, but his phone rang. A woman's voice asked, Dr. Cole, any news on Lena? Recognizing the voice, Ethan's brow knitted. Lena isn't my sister anymore, he said sharply. It was my birth mother. Illness and guilt had drained her voice. She confessed, choked with tears. It was my fault. I switched Lena with Mindy. Lena was innocent. Couldn't you treat her like before? I was the swap child of the Cole family, my mother fearing I wouldn't survive. When terminally ill, she admitted the truth. Mindy was restored to the family. When she saw me, her words were not remorseful. You lived 20 years in their care. Mindy's turn now. I wasn't hurt. It was true. Mindy moved in. The next night, she feigned reconciliation. I confessed. I want to stay, but I don't want to be Ethan's sister anymore. I told him my feelings were beyond familial, that I wanted to be with him. He only scoffed. With me forever? You mean living in the Cole household, enjoying luxury? He pulled out a recorder. My words from yesterday with Mindy played, twisted. I have a plan to stay. If I get Ethan, they won't kick me out. I've acted close for years. Now it's time to use him. An ambulance siren cut through memory. An ER doctor bumped into Ethan. Sorry, sudden case coming in. Ethan shook it off, then spoke into the phone, voice sharp. You want me to treat her like before? Watch her play innocent? Lena came here for money, didn't she? He hung up. Fingers flying, he typed, Lena, don't come. Not a cent from me. I wasn't there for money. I never would be. I drifted back, spectral, sensing a cold certainty. He despised me. Not coming. Let's go. Ethan strode out, storm clouded in anger. The ambulance screeched past. Knocks on the rear window interrupted him. The ER doctor appeared. Can I help you? Ethan asked. The young doctor stopped Ethan outside the ambulance bay and held out a small object. Sorry, but is this yours? Resting on his palm was a single stethoscope earpiece, smooth silver wrapped around soft silicone. Ethan recognized it immediately. It was part of the custom set I had given him for his birthday, a gift I had spent half a year saving for. Yes, he said quietly, taking it from the doctor. It must have gotten caught on your coat when we bumped into each other, the doctor explained. I just found it in my pocket. Ethan closed his fingers around the tiny piece, nodded politely, and raised the car window. The Audi pulled away. Mindy chatted endlessly in the back seat, filling the silence with complaints and shallow conversation, but Ethan barely responded. His answers were short and distracted, and the hand holding the earpiece stayed firmly closed. I sat on the other side of the car, separated from them by more than just space, and watched his profile. I wondered if he remembered last year. Those earpieces had been made by a well-known craftsman. Their price had been higher than anything I had ever bought in my life. For months I had taken every translation job I could find, sleeping only a few hours each night, just to afford them. When midnight struck on his birthday, I tiptoed into his room. He had been hunched over his desk, working on his thesis with that familiar frown. The moment he saw me, the tension melted from his features. No smiling, I had demanded, trying to hide my nervousness. Serious face. Then I told him to shut his eyes. He obeyed, though his lips kept fighting a grin. The room was silent. I stared at him for too long, lost in the steady rhythm of his breathing. My heart hammered so loudly that I could not tell if the sound belonged to me or him. Lena, he murmured, sounding impatient. Startled, I thrust the velvet box toward him. You can open your eyes now. When he lifted the lid, he looked honestly surprised. A real, unrestrained smile spread across his face. Help me put them on, he said. My hands trembled. I pushed the gift into his hands instead, muttered a weak, happy birthday, and ran straight out of his room. Later, as I lay in bed, I replayed the scene again and again. Had I made a fool of myself? Had he guessed how I felt? Had I seemed childish? A sudden knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. Ethan slipped into the room and gently tugged the blankets away from my face. Why did you run off? He asked, amused. I stared at him, wanting to blurt out the truth. But my courage failed. He handed me a large box. Inside were several out-of-print medical books I had been longing for and an antique fountain pen. Either gift was worth far more than the earpieces I had given him. A warm summer breeze drifted through the window, carrying the scent of jasmine. For a moment it felt like the whole world had turned gentle. "Do you like it?" Ethan asked, ruffling my hair. His eyes were soft and clear, almost tender. "I love it," I whispered. The memory faded as the Audi turned into the coal estate. Their mother greeted them at the door. "Is everything all right? Is Mindy feeling better?" she asked anxiously. Ethan assured her nothing serious was wrong. Mindy put on her usual performance, hugging their mother and insisting she still felt sick. Their mother comforted her, although she looked faintly uneasy, then sent her upstairs. When she turned back, her expression was troubled. "Ethan," she asked quietly, "are you feeling well?" He frowned. "I am." "Why?" "I do not know," she said, pressing a hand to her chest. "I suddenly feel so anxious. I have a terrible feeling something has happened to Lena. The place she is staying at must be damp, and that is terrible for her throat. Please bring her home." Ethan forced a small smile. "Nothing will happen to her. She always exaggerates her symptoms, so everyone will fuss over her. Her throat issues healed years ago." His mother gently shook her head. "You were by her side after the surgery, so you never heard what the doctor told us when she was discharged. He warned us that even if a child recovers after tonsil surgery, long-term problems can still appear later. Many patients need regular checkups as adults to screen for cancer." She did not notice the way Ethan stiffened. "Lena has always been bright," she continued. "When she feels fine, she jokes to make us relax. When she is truly unwell, she becomes quiet and obedient. Do you remember the time she coughed up blood at school?" Ethan lifted his head sharply. "I rushed her to the hospital and asked why she went to school when she was that sick. Do you know what she told me?" Tears pooled in her eyes. "She said she knew she caused a lot of trouble and that she might even die someday. And if she was going to die, she hoped it would happen far away. So we would not be sad, and so we would not be afraid to come home." A soft sob escaped her. Such foolish words. She spoke like an abandoned little kitten. I floated nearby, wanting so badly to hug her, to calm her fears. But I could not. I really had died far from home, just like that silly kitten. For all her flaws, even Mindy had people who loved her fiercely. I could not help but envy that. Ethan was silent for a long time. His jaw tightened. "She went downtown by bus," he said finally. "She must have come to ask me for money." His mother stared at him, shocked. "That is impossible. Lena did not take the card or jewelry we gave her. Why would she come back for money?" A shadow of doubt crossed his face. "Her birth mother's hospital funds were nearly depleted," he insisted. "The hospital was close to stopping treatment. That is because she was being transferred to a better facility. We already paid her medical fees ahead of time. It is our way of thanking her for raising Mindy." Ethan froze. "Is that true?" "Of course it is," his mother replied. "Hurry and call Lena. Tell her we are all waiting for her." I looked at her kind, worried face. My heart ached. If only I had lived long enough to return home. Ethan pulled out his phone and dialed my number. Ring after ring echoed in the room. I thought numbly, no one is ever going to answer that again. Yet someone did. The other end was filled with muffled traffic and voices, but no one spoke. "Lena, why did you ignore my texts?" Ethan snapped. A small gasp came through the speaker, as if he had startled someone. Then a tiny voice asked, "Are you the person the pretty lady was waiting for?" Ethan blinked. His tone softened. "Who is this?" "I am Sweetie," she said proudly. Ethan rubbed his forehead. "Can you put the phone's owner on, please?" Sweetie hesitated. "But the pretty lady is sleeping. She was really tired. Mommy says good kids do not wake someone up when they are sleeping." Despite himself, Ethan almost smiled. "Fine. When she wakes up, tell her not to go anywhere. I am coming to pick her up." "Are you the brother she talked about?" Sweetie asked. "She said her brother is super nice and treats her the best. She said he is the best brother in the whole world." There was a short pause. Then Sweetie added, even quieter, "But you sounded mean just now." Ethan froze. Something in him trembled. "I am sorry," he said softly. When the call ended, his mother scolded him lightly. "You made her wait so long she fell asleep?" His expression hardened again. "She needs to learn consequences. Otherwise, she will keep lying." His mother shook her head. "Ethan, you have always been calm and rational. The only people who can upset you are the ones you care about. Lena is sensitive. Do not hurt her." Was my heart broken? A little, I suppose. But I still did not understand. If he cared, how could he be so cruel? As Ethan stepped outside, heavy rain poured down. The streets were jammed with traffic, and the Audi crawled forward. He kept checking the road, visibly restless. I sat in the passenger seat as a ghost now, not beside him, but a memory he could not see. As they neared the clinic, Ethan messaged again. Can you walk to the entrance? A second message followed immediately. Forget it. Stay there and wait for me. By the time the car stopped, he still had no reply. He marched toward the clinic, irritation simmering. Lena really has some nerve, he muttered. Just wait until I see her, I will. His voice cut off. His eyes fixed on something ahead, and he stopped moving. I followed Ethan's gaze and froze. There I was, leaning against the clinic wall, eyes closed, unmoving amid the chaos of people clutching umbrellas, shuffling and jostling. Everything around me was a blur, yet I stood completely still. Ethan's usual urgency vanished. He approached slowly, careful not to disturb me. When he reached me, he paused, studying my face. Then, with a light tap to my forehead, he said flatly, "You've made your point, Lena. You can stop pretending now." I remained still. A bitter laugh escaped him, and he pinched my cheek, an old, familiar punishment. "If you don't get up, I'm leaving. Don't come crying later." A firm push on my shoulder sent me forward, and my body slumped into his arms, heavy and lifeless. "Lena." His patience cracked. "Get up. Stop fooling around." But as he held me, something seemed wrong. My body felt unnaturally cold, too still. His fingers trembled as they traced my lips, then lifted my hand to see the purple tinge in my nails. "Lena?" Fear replaced anger in his voice. Sweetie, perched nearby, asked curiously, "What's wrong with the pretty lady? Is she just sleepy?" Ethan didn't answer. He scooped me up and carried me toward the car, voice tight. "She's sick," he said grimly. Even in the Audi, with the heater blasting, I remained ice-cold in his arms. He called the hospital, urgent and clipped. "I'm bringing a patient. Unconscious, severe hypoxia, cyanosis. Prepare a team at the entrance." The driver sped up. Ethan's eyes never left me, his breaths jagged. Through the rain-slick streets, he held me tightly, murmuring, "It's okay, Lena. Don't be afraid. We're almost there." I pressed my cheek to his neck, feeling nothing. No warmth, no comfort. It was too late, I thought. The rain pounding the window reminded me of another storm. Years ago, I had flown across the country to see Ethan on my birthday while he studied abroad. The plane had been tossed by turbulence for 30 terrifying minutes. When I landed, he was there in the arrivals hall, frantic and furious. "Lena, who gave you permission to show up?" he had yelled, gripping my wrist painfully. "What if the plane crashed?" "I just didn't want you to be alone," I whispered. All the anger had drained from him the moment he saw me. He had hugged me tightly, letting me feel loved and safe, even if it hurt. That hope, I realized, had made me reckless. A lesson I would pay for with my life. The Audi skidded to a stop outside the hospital. A medical team awaited us, and I was rushed inside on a gurney. Ethan froze in the hallway, clutching my backpack. His phone rang. A voice spoke, calm and professional. "Miss Hale? We've completed the analysis. The recording on your device was AI-generated, using your voice as a sample. We can provide certification and trace the creator." Ethan's jaw tightened. "What recording?" "We are an AI detection agency. Weeks ago, a Miss Lena Hale asked us to verify a voice recording. She said the words weren't hers." He stared at the phone, stunned. He had been determined to deny me access to it, certain it was useless. "I'll listen to it one more time," he had sneered. I shook my head, trying to explain the truth, my real feelings. But he had refused to believe me. The call ended, leaving him whispering to himself. "I need to apologize to Lena. I wronged her." The emergency room doors opened. A doctor stepped out, expression grave. "My sister, she's okay, right?" Ethan asked, hope warring with fear. The doctor shook his head slowly. "I'm sorry, Dr. Cole. She was already deceased upon arrival." Ethan froze. The hallway lights cast him in stark, unyielding white. Then rage overtook him. "You're lying," he bellowed, gripping the doctor's collar. "She was unconscious. She just needed oxygen. Are you even a real doctor? Move or get out of my way." The doctor held him back. Those weren't cyanosis symptoms, it was livor mortis. Ethan's disbelief gave him strength. He shoved past and flung open the ER doors. A gurney stood covered with a white sheet. With a manic rush, he tore it away. Lena. He knelt beside me, voice breaking, words spilling out in a chaotic torrent. I was late. This is just punishment, right? You're making me pay for being late. I'm sorry, Lena. I'll never be late again. Please forgive me. I know about the recording. I'll fix it. I'll make her leave. A draft brushed the room. My lashes fluttered, then stilled. Ethan's gaze searched desperately for any sign of life. The doctor gently approached. I'm sorry for your loss, he said. Nurses replaced the sheet, moving my body to the temporary morgue. Ethan's hands hovered over me. Just give me a moment alone, he begged. The staff relented, granting 15 minutes. He brushed my hair from my forehead, whispering, we could have had so much more time. Memories surfaced. Last year, in the hospital, he had stayed by my side, asleep in the chair. I had tiptoed to him, almost kissed him, and he had known. He had stayed awake, eyes closed, letting me act first. If only I hadn't opened my eyes, he whispered repeatedly, voice choked with grief. I remembered that night perfectly. I had awakened, intending only to scold him for sleeping in the chair. But the dim light and his peaceful face tempted me. I called him names, testing boundaries. Finally, I whispered, Ethan. I leaned closer, pretending I only wanted a better look at him. My breath brushed his skin. His eyes shot open. So close. Thank God, so close. We stared at each other. He seemed awake the whole time, knowing what I was about to do. That night, he had prevented me from making a mistake that could have changed everything. Now, in the hospital, he leaned in again, carefully, inches from my lips. A tear slipped down his cheek. His lips brushed mine, soft and tentative. If only I hadn't opened my eyes, he repeated, voice trembling. Did he know? That I would die? That I wasn't his sister? 15 minutes passed like an eternity. A nurse knocked gently, signaling time was up. Ethan clutched my hand. I should have gotten here sooner. Mom appeared, panic-stricken. Lena, wake up. What happened? Ethan's voice was steady, unnervingly so. Mom. I love Lena. I want to be with her forever. Tears streamed down her face. What? Lena and I aren't blood relatives. I'm going to marry her. He turned, firm and unyielding. Mindy is going away. Far away. Never to return. Ethan confessed everything, leaving nothing unsaid. So that's why you insisted Lena leave our home and return to her birth mother, Mom said, seated on a cold hospital bench. She stared down at Ethan, kneeling before her. But why the sudden change now? Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he asked softly, Mom, will you give us your blessing? The calm elegance of her face vanished. She glared at him, voice sharp and furious. Ethan, are you still clinging to this madness? Lena is gone. You can never be together. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she continued. Why did you treat her so cruelly back then? Lena, she always trusted you, adored you. How could you doubt her? Maybe my Lena could have been saved. Even I felt the sting of it. Blaming him now would only deepen his guilt. He had been family once. Naturally, he felt the weight of it even though I was gone. I hovered beside Mom, my ghostly arms around her shoulders. Mom, I've lived longer than I was meant to. You saved me from pharyngitis when I was little. To be your daughter, even briefly, was the greatest happiness of my life. Please don't cry anymore. Gradually, her sobs quieted. She opened my backpack, sifting through the contents. Alongside a charger and toiletries were a few folded medical reports. She unfolded them, dated a week ago. A simple laryngoscopy from a local clinic. The results were grim. The doctor had recommended further testing. A tear splashed across the paper. You were sick all this time. Why didn't you tell us? She did. Ethan muttered, eyes on the floor. I thought she was just seeking attention, so I scolded her. Mom shook her head, drawing out a small sketchbook. Page after page revealed her drawings, herself, Dad, and then countless portraits of Ethan, doting, serious, gentle. She traced the lines of him taking care of me, warming milk, checking my temperature. I never drew him with affection, not in that way. But the memories filled my mind. The times I mattered, the times I was cherished. And that was enough. Hours passed on the cold bench, deep into the night, before Dad finally arrived to take Mom home. Ethan, seeming to accept reality, began preparing for my funeral with methodical, almost mechanical calm. Always rational, Always materialistic, he now sought answers from spiritualists. He asked frantic questions. When someone dies, does their soul return home? Will she be scared? Does cremation hurt? If reincarnated, will she still have pharyngitis? No one could answer. Eventually, he abandoned post-mortem cosmetic procedures and pursued the supernatural, desperate to reconnect with me, to say goodbye properly. He offered enormous sums, but people refused, wary of the Cole family's wrath. Before my burial, Mindy was exiled to a remote, arid town at the edge of the Sahara, never to return. My biological mother died shortly after, never seeing Mindy again. The funeral day was rainy. Friends and family moved quietly under umbrellas. Only Ethan remained, soaked, kneeling at my gravestone. He traced my black and white photo, voice whispering into the memory-laden rain. Lena, after you became an adult, I feared being close to you. Your gaze, your voice, your touch, it was addictive, clouding my judgment. When you went to college, I pretended to worry about your safety, but I was terrified you'd love someone else. That recording, I clung to it, desperate to keep you. But when you confessed, I was furious, terrified, so I pushed you away. Tears mingled with rain. I was too weak, too selfish, too stupid. If I'd admitted I loved you sooner, trusted you, maybe I could have saved you. Would you still be alive? I wanted to answer, it wasn't his fault. My death was inevitable. But he couldn't hear me. Lena, I love you. I'm sorry, please come back. He trembled, refusing to leave. Memories of him staying by my sickbed in elementary school flashed through my mind. The Ethan from then he truly cared. Finally, the rain ceased. Light crept over the horizon. Ethan rose, lingering a moment before walking away, unsteady but determined. I felt peace, perhaps my own freedom. Ethan visited my grave every day, sometimes bringing flowers, sometimes books I loved. He spoke softly, sharing his life, his dreams, his memories of me. I dreamed of you as a little girl last night in a white dress, in a jasmine field. I tried to reach you, but you vanished. I searched everywhere. I wanted to tell him. I wasn't angry. I'd gone somewhere he couldn't follow. Mom and Dad urged him to move on. He refused. He quit his hospital job and opened a small clinic specializing in throat disorders, naming it Ethan Clinic. Walls adorned with my drawings, my photo on his desk, he shared my story with every patient. Her name was Lena. She had pharyngitis but was brave, full of life. She could have been a great artist. Patients pitied him, thinking him lost in love. But it wasn't love. They didn't see it was penance. 3 years passed. Gray streaked his hair, fine lines traced his eyes, yet he continued visiting my grave. One day, he didn't come. I sensed unease and followed him to the clinic, closed. Then to the house, empty. Finally, I found him in a hospital bed, pale, struggling to breathe. Mom held his hand, crying. Ethan, you knew your heart condition. What will I do if you go? He smiled weakly. I miss Lena. I want to see her. I'm gone. Mom sobbed. I know she's waiting for me, he whispered. His heart monitor flatlined, but a serene smile graced his face, as if he had seen something beautiful. Ethan's funeral was quiet, simple. He was buried next to me. The headstone read, Ethan Cole, beloved of Lena Hale. Mom and Dad stood, aged beyond their years. Mom sighed. It's for the best they're finally together. Above the graves, I watched a brilliant white light flash. I awoke on a jasmine-lined path. At the end stood Ethan, in a white shirt, smiling gently. Lena,
I've come to get you, he said.
Speechless, I let him take my hand. I'm sorry I made you wait. This time, I'll never leave you again. His warmth returned, familiar, real. I smiled. You took your time, Ethan. Not anymore. I'll stay with you always. Never apart. Hand in hand, we walked toward the light, the flowers, the time we'd lost, together at last.